Hello and welcome. In this video tutorial, you're going to learn how to launch a virtual IP office utilizing vSphere console. So to start, let's go to the File, Deploy OVF template, and that'll launch the wizard. And as you can see, I already have a preset path where I have my files selected. Okay, so press next. Now the file is going to be examined by the wizard to make sure it is legit. It shows you the publisher, the version, and you press next here. You have a ULA license, accept that, give it a name. This name here is the machine name, so you're gonna have something unique here. The data store, that's the only thing that I have here, one data store in my XC, but if you have more than one, you might need to consider which one to use. Based on Avaya documentation, you want to use thick provision lazy 0. Hit next. As you can see here, it says warning, multiple source network are mapped to the host network. So all it is if you have different networks set up on your EXE or EXSI environment, you need to understand the VLANs and network and whatnot, because if you have the wrong network zone set up for your environment, you won't be able to communicate with the rest of the servers that you have already set up. So it is very important for you to understand that piece of the equation. So I suggest you contact your IT administrator and give you a map of addresses and interfaces so you understand exactly what's going on with the network. Once you press next, it'll give you a summary of the machine, displaying the OVF file, download size of the disk, which is 100 gigs, the name of the machine, so on and so forth. Hit finish here to start creating the machine. Okay, so you can see on the top here, left corner, it's got 24% deploying IPOSE Server Edition 9.1 and with 89 minutes remaining. So I'll be back once it's completed. Welcome back. Now you can see that the installation is already completed, and if you scroll down here or open the plus sign, you can see my new IPOSE server. So if you click on it, you can go right into resources allocations and you can edit them. By default, they're already pre-configured, so you don't have to do anything here. But if you like to for some reason change the network configuration and the memory, CPU, and hard drive size, you can do it here. So you can come here, network, and select which network you want to be part of. Right now, I just have one network selected here. So, but if you want to have, not if you want to have, but if there are already some set up for voice or data, you do them here. And you can start the machine by either going through here or if you go, I think it's right click it, power, there you go. So yeah, you can either do Control B or go through this option to turn on the actual server. So once you press that, on the bottom here, it shows you the actual activity saying that it's completed. Now the machine is running. If you're interested in seeing the machine booting up, you can always go to the console by right clicking on the server here and select Open Console. That'll give you an idea in what's doing in the background. It also gives you a chance to see all the settings and all the hardware being tested, passing and failing in the background too, as well as I don't know if you see this, but here you can see also that a certificate is being created, where a security key is being created under the root.ssh id rsa pub directory. And that's interesting to see here, but there is a certificate that gets created while deploying the server. Once the system boot up, you type login and use root administrator to get to the back end of the actual server here. And you can browse the file system by launching the Linux command and whatnot here. But we want to go into the system config network. That'll launch this little tool here that lets you update the IP addressing of Ethernet 0, which is the 192.168.42.1 address, and Ethernet 1, it has the actual 192.168.43.1. You know, besides that too, you can also, as you saw before here, you can update the DNS records. So we're gonna go ahead and update my IP addressing here to match my network. Again, this is all important, and they all need to match the actual Ethernet, I guess, interfaces. So if your network is different and you don't have routing between this interface, then you won't be able to communicate to the outside world. Okay, so now you press OK here. You can tap down, and that'll take you back to the previous window. Hit save, and then save and quit. And that's all you gotta do here to configure the IP addressing. To exit out of the tool, you have to type in exit, and that's gonna take you back to the main menu. Let's look at the server ignition. You're gonna log in with root administrator. So, and you can see that port is 771, so you need to put in the IP address of the IPO plus port 771. Let's go ahead and type the password here for the root account, and it's gonna ask you if you agree. Just hit next, and here you can see that we do have the primary server set up. Again, if you have this as secondary expansion or application server, you can specify that here. Hit next, and now it's looking for hardware. We don't have any, so we're just gonna press next. Here you can, as you can see, we already have set this up, so we don't have to worry about that. The only thing we might want to do is just check the host name and update it. NTP is your next setting here, and you're gonna leave that defaulted. Unless you want to select your own NTP server, you put it in here. Obviously, also your time zone is another thing you need to set up here, and compending, which is your line coding if it's UK or US. In this window here, you're gonna set up your root account password and also administrator, as well as system password. They all have to be unique. By the way, you cannot have the root and system password to be the same. I tried that and it didn't work. So they all three accounts passwords that have to be unique passwords. Once you hit next, here it's gonna ask you to create a certificate or import it. For me, I'm gonna create generate one. I'm gonna let the server generate one for me and hit next. And here it says, to prevent future security warnings, please import the CA certificate into your relevant browser and clients. So hit OK, and finally it's just a summary of all the settings we've done and set up in our server here. This warning here tells you that you need to be careful when changing any of these settings. So if you whenever you order the licensing, you're gonna have to provide the IP addresses of LAN 1 and LAN 2, as well as the time zone and host name. If you change those, you're gonna void the license. Alright, so now hit apply here, and the settings are being saved. Alright, that's all there is for this tool. Let's move on to the next step. Okay, we're finalizing the video here. We already have set up the interfaces. We set up the ignition on the server, and lastly, what we want to do is connect to the actual machine through the manager client. So you can open configuration to connect via the manager. Here I have 3 IP offices. We're gonna connect to the server edition, and that's the name. If you realize here, the name I think that we gave it in the ignition doesn't come up here, so I don't know if that's gonna be the original name. See if we can maybe change it once we connect. So let's go ahead and put in our password that we have created. So here you have another chance to update your server name or system name, not server name, but system name, and also IP addressing and server edition, secondary IP addresses, and DNS server. So I'm gonna go ahead and make it SEIPO 9-1 lab, and we're gonna save that. And once you save it, this message comes up: server edition initial configuration completed successfully. System gets to reboot now, so let's go do that. Okay, so now it's boot up again, and you can see here the name shows correctly, SEIPO 9-1-lab. Hit select that, hit OK, and my login and password. So let's go and do that. Once you log in, it's gonna bring you up to the control panel where you can select and manage different parts of the IPOSE environment. And let's see, it's gonna here we go. Now it says configuration, system status, voicemail administration, onboarding, and all that stuff here to the right. Alright, so if you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment or just hit the like button or the plus sign if it's on Google+.